everyone, and welcome to our first Prowritingaid 101 exclusively for business writers. I'm Micah McGuire, Prowritingaid's B2B Digital Marketing Manager, and I'm here today with Tom Wilde, who is our Head of Client Solutions. We're both part of the business unit here at Prowritingaid, so you guys can expect to see us at a lot more of these events in the future. For today, we do have a little bit of an agenda for our walkthrough. We are going to kick off with a little bit about our Chrome extension. Then we are going to move over to our web editor to discuss some new features that are going to be rolled out soon for our Chrome extension, but you already have them available in the web editor, so we'd love to show you our new goals report and our updated summary report. Then we're going to talk a bit about our readability report, our style report, and our sticky sentences report. And if we have time, we're going to discuss a couple of tools that are super useful to business writers that are extras outside of our reports. We do want this to kind of also be driven by what you guys want to know. So we're going to save the last 10 to 15 minutes for our Q&A. So if you have any questions during the walkthrough, please post them in our Q&A box. Basically, we'll get to as many as we can. If we are not able to get to your question, however, you are welcome to email hello@prowritingaid.com. Again, that is hello, H-E-L-L-O, @prowritingaid.com. Just throw in the subject line that you are an attendee for our Business 101, and Tom and I will make sure to get back to you as soon as we can. Okay, I think that kicks us off for the walkthrough. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Micah. Great to meet everybody. Looking forward to getting some questions, as Micah says, do ask along the way as we go. Okay, so what our objective is tonight is walk you through, or today, depending on where you are, is to show you some of the key features that are going to help you produce better documents using Prowritingaid. And almost every client that we talk to mentions the same issue, and that is that they waste time fixing the small stuff in the documents they write or they review. That could be time much better spent looking at the positioning of a document, looking at the argument, looking at the pitch they're writing, the structure. And what see Prowritingaid as is kind of the editor on your shoulder. Okay, so it helps you take accountability for the documents that you produce, that your team produce. Whether you're submitting documents or reports to clients, to managers for review, for pitches and proposals, to customers, it's going to deliver a higher quality of document. It's going to give you a better chance of it being read. It's going to give you a better chance of it being agreed and signed off. So what we hope to do is talk you through or show you some of the key features that are going to let you do that. Now, how are we going to do that? Micah said that we're going to focus on the web editor and the Chrome extension. So most of the demonstration will be in the web editor. We'll dip into the Chrome extension because it's the most popular of our integrations. And then we'll also have time to touch on some of the other integrations as well. What we try and do is create a tool that looks the same wherever you use it. So whether you're writing in Microsoft Word, Outlook, Google Docs, you name it, we've got an extension for you. Okay, so there are numerous browser extensions too. But in addition to just the tools that help you do the writing, so the analysis of the sentences and the documents you're creating, there's some other features that I want to talk you through that are specifically useful for business users. Those are things like the style guide, the custom style guide rule tool, Snippets, one of our latest features, and also our term-based feature. But we'll start straight away by showing you what the editor looks like in the web editor. Excuse me, I'm just going to share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So here's a Prowritingaid web editor. And you can see the interface, the reports that you can run across the top of the screen here, and my document in the body of the screen. And as I said, the UI, the interface is designed to look the same wherever you're going to be using it. We're going to focus first and foremost on the real-time checker. So that's like the editor on your shoulder that's looking for mistakes, possible improvements as you're writing. And we'll do that in the Chrome extension. It's a great way of demonstrating it to you. So I've got Gmail open. I use Gmail for my emails. And I've got the Chrome extension installed. You can see it up here. If I click here, you can see the Chrome extension enabled for Gmail. And there are some settings here as well. So I can set my language preference. I can set my writing style. Let me just close that. The first thing you notice are the highlights in the document, or the underlines. And the colors, so there's red, there's blue, there's yellow underlines, and they refer to grammar issues, spelling issues, and style issues. And you can see by hovering over any of those highlights, the message, the pop-up that reveals the message. So if I were to just hover over here, it tells me that I'm missing a determiner. So it shouldn't be right, it should be the right. So it's a really simple check, right? This is, like I said, the editor on your shoulder. It's spotting the things that, as you're a writer, what we tend to do when we're writing, let's say, emails, is you just launch into the writing. You get down your thoughts onto the paper as quickly as possible so you can send your email. So you don't always spot the mistakes you've made. So the real-time checker is doing that. It's picking up on those things. There's a few things you can do here. So first of all, you can just make a simple accept by doing that. There we go, it's made the change. Or I can accept and move to the next just by clicking this icon here. You also see that I can disable the rule and I can ignore the rule. So two other functions that are really useful. Disable is a permanent disable, ignore is one time. So just think before you use them what you actually want to do. And that's it. You work your way down, kind of focusing on the low-hanging fruit, if you like. It's going to find the grammar, spelling, and style issues. Let's take you over to the web editor at this point, because what I want to do is show you how you get into more detail with Prowritingaid. So here we've looked at kind of writing in the flow of work, the highlights as you type that are appearing, the improvements you can make as you type. But if I click on the Prowritingaid icon down here in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, it's going to open the full interface. And that allows me to access much deeper, much richer reports.
And this is where the real power of Prowritingaid really comes in, because in our real-time checker in the Chrome extension, a lot of different programs have similar functionality. We like to think we get into a little more detailed. How many times have you had your grammar checker, let you know, hey, there's a the missing at the beginning of the sentence. But at the same time, these reports let you get a lot deeper and into a lot more nuance in your documents.
Yeah, exactly that, Micah. Absolutely. So here we see the full interface. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to switch to the web editor, right? So it's the same document, but it's in the web editor. And you'll notice the difference. Here we go. Turn on the real-time checker. And here's the difference that Micah was talking about. So we're in the web editor, and soon, so within the next couple of weeks within the Chrome extension, you will see this sidebar. And the sidebar gives you an alternative way of navigating the grammar and style issues in the document. So the same ones that I saw as I highlight, I can navigate in the document itself, or I can work my way down through each individual item in the sidebar here, okay? But what's really exciting here is goals. And goals allows the user to really focus on the metrics, the measurements of their writing. What are the key things that are going to improve the quality of their document? Now, before I do that, I've just remembered I want to mention something. I'm going to come on to this in more detail in a minute. But you may have seen, as I was highlighting some of these improvements in the document, this little gold symbol here. And that is where some of the Prowritingaid magic happens. It really differentiates us from other grammar and style checkers out there, because we don't see Prowritingaid as a sticking plaster, as a band-aid. It's not just picking up changes and improvements and making them for you. It's actually building your skills and capabilities. So it's making you into a better writer in the long term. And I'll show you how in a minute. Let's go back into goals. So goals, like I said, it allows you to see some measurements of your writing, the metrics of your writing, and you can set your document type. So from this list, I can select what kind of document I'm writing. So for this one, it's going to be a sales email. And that's going to highlight a bunch of metrics that score the document as it currently stands. So I can really quickly see how good or how bad my document is, and I start to build a picture of where I need to focus my efforts. You look here, the way to read goals is quite simple. We have a target area, which is represented by this bubble here. So for grammar, spelling, and style, it should be hitting 80% or higher. But actually, this is where I'm currently reaching or currently hitting. So I'm at 41% for grammar, spelling, and style. That means I've got a lot of work to do. In readability, I should be aiming for a readability grade of less than 10, and I'm bang on 10. So it's at the upper end of the scale. I probably want to take a look at that. Because I'm looking at an email, this gives me a positivity score. It wouldn't feature that score for, let's say, a report, okay? That's a specific metric for email. So this is a great way of, in the flow of your work, seeing some key metrics to do with your document type. However, yeah, go ahead.
You'll also notice that the goals can differ for different types of business documents. So you might have a different goal for the sentence length of a business report versus the sentence length of an email. So all of that is kind of based on a compendium of documents that we've gone through and analyzed.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, lots of our users ask, okay, so what's the best way to use ProWriting? What's the kind of workflow here? So we always say, well, let's start with a real-time checker. You can turn that off or on in the document, but it's working in the background while you're writing. That's great. But when you get to the end of the document, you want to look in more detail at some of the key areas of your document. And the place to start is the summary report. And the summary report is going to show you, again, a whole bunch of goals, a whole bunch of metrics like you've seen, but a wider variety, and it goes into more detail. The point of running the summary report is it gives you a very clear idea of which of the deeper reports you should run, where you're going to get most value, because there are 19 reports of Prowritingaid. Okay, if you were to run all 19, firstly, they're not all going to be relevant to the document type that you're running. Secondly, it's going to take you an awful long time. What you need to do is use a summary report to focus on your biggest weaknesses and build a habit, okay? Understand which 3 or 4 reports deliver you the most value and run them every time you write a report, or every time you write a proposal, every time you write a pitch document. Okay.
When you use the tool, you'll also get used to which reports you run the most. So eventually you may come to a point that you don't even need the summary report for certain things like emails. You may just say, you know, hey, I always know I need to check my grammar and spelling, and I always need to check the style report. And then that way, you know exactly what to run each time you do an email instead of having to pop into the summary report and double check.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So we've got 3 headline scores here: grammar, style, and spelling. They'll always be at the top. They're core for everything you write. Okay. And we can see we need to do some work in all of those areas. Down below, I've got goals or metrics grouped by what I'm doing well. So the areas where my document's looking great, I can see I've achieved 48% of my goals there. And they are things like my passive voice score, okay? We'll go into that in a bit more detail in a minute. Sentence variety, okay? So it's telling me actually I'm on target. I've got a sentence variety of 4 or more. My acronym consistency. But where you really want to focus is here, where my document needs more work. And I can see some of the things, again, I saw in the sidebar, grammar, spelling, and style, but there are some others in here as well. We looked at readability grade already. We've got things like sentence length. So the average sentence length here should be between 11 and 18 words. Actually, I'm at 21.9 words as an average. The chances are, if I'm putting that kind of email in front of customers with some really long sentences, they're going to get quite bored. They're probably going to lose interest between the beginning and end of a sentence. The more readable I can make the document, the shorter I can make those sentences, the more likely they are to agree and understand what I'm trying to tell them. Now, there's 2 things here. One, the summary report contains a lot more information. And to access that, you can simply click on any of the headings like this. It'll take you down into the depths of the summary report, where we use lots of visual aids to help build a picture of what's going on. So I just clicked on the readability button. That takes me to here. I can see paragraph level readability, and it tells me in my document, I've got probably around 90% of my paragraphs are easy to read, but I've got one, probably two paragraphs here that are very difficult to read. So immediately I know those are, or that's one of the areas I need to focus on. If I go back to the top, there's just one other I want to run as well. And let's have a look at sentence length. So sentence length just shows me where my offending sentences are in the document. So where are the sentences that are really going to trip up my customers, or my readers rather? Which are the ones that are going to slow them down? And you can see I've got two sentences, both of them more than 40 words in length, and I can see where they are in relation to the start and the end of the document. So I can go into the document, find those and fix them. Okay, so I've got a picture of which reports I want to run, where I need to get into more detail. Let's close the summary report and do that. So we're going to look first at readability. Here we go. So readability tells me a number of things. Firstly, it gives me a really simple calculation of how long it's going to take my reader to read this document. More importantly, it gives me a Flesch Reading Ease score and also a Flesch Kincaid grade rating. So the Flesch Reading Ease score is calculated simply by looking at the average number of words per sentence and the average number of syllables per word. Okay, if you are using long sentences with long words and words with many syllables, your Flesch Kincaid Reading Ease score will suffer. Sorry, your Flesch Reading Ease score will suffer. What we want to do is kind of find those paragraphs, okay, that are the most difficult to read. And you can see them listed here. I can navigate to any of them by using the go to item icon, the arrow there. And it's just going to highlight the difficult to read paragraph in the document. Gives me a Flesch Reading Ease measurement of that particular paragraph. So I know that that's what I need to focus on. That's what I need to change. Now, you know, AI isn't yet at the stage where it can entirely or accurately rewrite that entire paragraph for you. So this is advisory. This is telling us, right, we need to focus on that paragraph. When we've gone in, done some edits, we'll come back and run that readability report and see the improvements that have been made.
And also a note on the Flesch Kincaid grade. Essentially, this is a measure of how hard your sentences or your work is to read based on grade level. So this is, sometimes people ask, well, if I'm not writing to 10th graders, why do I need it to 10th grade level? And the reason for that is all this does is, in our analysis of good writing, we discovered that essentially good writing falls at either a 10th grade or lower reading level. That's the level at which things are easy to read. Once you are past that 10th grade mark, the writing tends to get a little bit harder to read, a little bit more convoluted. Still understandable, of course, by most high schoolers, but we want to make things as easy as possible on our reader and as easy as possible for us to get our points across and be understood.
Yeah, great point, Micah. And we've worked with many clients before now who have, you know, a Flesch Kincaid grade rating that they target in all of their communications. They know their audience as an organization, and they know what kind of target level they should be making all the documentation that they create, what they should target. Okay. So we were going to go from here. We know in readability, from the readability report, which are the kind of the tricky paragraphs. Let's go into some of the other reports and see how we can tackle some of those areas. We're going to run style. Okay, this is another really popular report. Before I do that, just a quick word. You'll notice that some of these reports may not have much to do with the kind of writing that you're doing. Okay, you'll notice that things like pacing, maybe alliteration, aren't really relevant to the writing that you're doing. But that's because Prowritingaid is built for all writers, creative writers, fiction writers, academic writers. So again, comes back to really understanding the tool. It's why we're running this session, and you building habits and understanding of where the most value lies for you. But I'd certainly recommend readability, and I'd certainly recommend style. Let's have a look at style. Okay, style is a very feature-rich report. Okay, there's stuff in here that's to do, well, you can see it in this sidebar here. Okay, so we've got the sidebar once again, and it breaks down the areas, the categories of inaccuracies or improvements. We've got readability enhancements, we've got passive verbs, we've got style improvements. Style improvements is a real quick win because it's going to pick up on your business jargon. Let's have a look. Again, I can navigate to any of them here. Take me to the document, the point of the document, cutting edge. Okay, it's just replacing it with business jargon. Do I agree? Yeah, I do want to make that change in this instance, so let's do that. Work my way down to the next one, towards bandwidth. And let's find bandwidth in the document. Do I want to replace it with capacity? Yeah, that sounds good, and it's not using jargon. So actually, I'm fewer hurdles in the way of what my reader is having to understand. So we're going to make that change. And that's it.
One of the things I find with the style report is that the style report has changes that are not necessarily incorrect. So you'll notice we have a point on passive voice and things like that. There are cases where the passive voice may be necessary in certain cases. But for the most part, these are things that on day-to-day basis, making these improvements will make your writing stronger. But it's not like the spelling and grammar check, whereas you're looking at spelling and grammar and going, this is spelled incorrectly, or this comma's in the incorrect place, or something like that. These are a little bit more of stylistic choices, but we do find that on the whole, they do improve the documents other scores.
Yeah, absolutely. And passive voice is a favorite, isn't it, Mike? It's something that we see in business writing an awful lot. Okay, and there are several reasons why people use passive voice, but it's widely accepted that actually, if we use the active voice more, we're making the journey of the information from the page to our reader's brain much easier. Okay, we're focusing on presenting the information in the most easy to read and accountable way. Okay.
In fact, you'd probably say that passive voice and business jargon are probably two of the top business writing sins. So
absolutely. And here we've found an example of passive voice. Now, this is a great way to demonstrate the point I mentioned earlier about Prowritingaid being here to build skills and capability and not just being a band-aid. What I mean by that is writing is really complex and it's also quite a personal subject. And many of us weren't trained to write, okay? We may have been recruited for wholly different reasons, but the fact is we do a lot of writing at work. So there may be times when we're coming across things that we can improve in our writing when we don't actually understand what we're being asked to do. So the passive voice, many people don't understand what the passive voice is or the difference between the active and the passive voice. You can see here that this pop-up, this message is telling me I'm using a passive verb rather than an active verb. And an active verb would be more effective. It would be more readable. What does that mean? So if I click on the information icon here, it opens a contextual learning window that contains content. In this case, it contains a video. So this is Jackie Chan featured in a video explaining the difference between the active and the passive voice. In other pop-ups, we have quizzes, we have links to blog articles, and it's all done with the intention of building the user's skills and capabilities. So they are improving they're learning to become better writers. Back to the actual example. Let's close this. Back to the actual example. You can see the AI in this instance is working to understand what we're trying to say. Okay, so the sentence, thus far, the proposition has been accepted by the majority of our stakeholders. Well, we can see has been accepted is the passive verb, and it's changing that into an active sentence by swapping the subject and the object in the sentence. So the result is the majority of our stakeholders has accepted the position, or the majority of our stakeholders have accepted the position. Let's accept this second one and make the change. So there we are. We've changed that sentence into thus far the majority of our stakeholders have accepted the proposition. It's shorter, it's simpler, it presents the information in a better order. There are still more improvements we can make here. So for example, we can actually remove thus. It's not adding, or thus far rather, it's not adding anything to this sentence. So we'll just make that change. And you can see we're making kind of incremental gains, marginal gains. So each of these little changes, by the time we've run a few of these reports, we will end up with a document that is a whole lot better and therefore, like I said, much more likely to get our reader, our customer, whether that's internal or external, on side. Okay, so I think we've given you a snapshot of the style report. I think we'll move on and have a look at one of my favorites. Anything else on the style report, Micah, that you wanted to mention?
I think we've got it covered. I think we can move on to the sticky sentences. Okay,
sticky sentences is one of my favorite reports, and it's totally unique to Prowritingaid. I'm just going to hide semi-sticky sentences so we can focus on what sticky sentences are for a minute. So sticky sentences is a report that looks for glue words. And glue words are the 200 most commonly used words in the English language. They're your prepositions, your articles, in, on, have, sorry. And by themselves, they aren't actually providing the context of the sentence. Okay, they're really important. They hold the sentence together. But we know from our analysis that if a sentence contains more than 40% of glue words, or rather it's made up more than 40% of glue words, then the chances are you are saying, you could say what you're trying to say much more efficiently, much more effectively.
And if you've ever read a sentence that doesn't have much to say in it, you know, kind of don't realize what the point is if you've been reading it, then you've probably been dealing with a sentence that has a high proportion of glue words. So that's the thing, is that we have our working words, which are our subjects, our verbs, all of that good stuff that really drive the sentence action. And then you've got the glue words that we do need to have there to understand the sentence structure, but too many and your sentence really loses a lot of punch.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And if we have a look at this example, so sticky sentence, this has been highlighted because more than 40% of the words in this sentence are glue words. And you can see, in fact, we've got nearly 71% of these words are glue words. You can see them listed, just, wanted, to, back, about, the, around, last, or so. Like I said, those words themselves don't provide the meaning in the sentence. We're looking for the kind of the words that actually tell the story, right? So how do we tackle a sticky sentence? Well, it's just a highlight to tell us, try rewriting this sentence in a simpler way. If you think about it, saying just wanted to circle back about the project we talked about around the last month. Well, what are we trying to say here? Probably something along the lines of, just wanted to get in touch, or just wanted to discuss project. Either of those is delivering the same information. In fact, that second one's better. Even it's delivering the same information, but much more clearly. It's saving the reader effort and time. Yeah, sorry, Micah, go on.
Just an important point to remember about sticky sentences is that there's not one correct way to rewrite a sticky sentence. Every different writer who looks at a different sticky sentence would probably rewrite it in a slightly different way. The point is when you're considering that rewriting, just think about how you might get those glue words down. So there's not one way that's right or wrong here. It's what works best with how you write.
That's exactly right. Yeah, absolutely. And as we run the report again, you'll see that's no longer a sticky sentence. I've still got a bunch of semi-sticky sentences in there. So those are sentences with a proportion of glue words that are still above target, but they're not as bad. So those are your next ones to focus on. And again, it becomes quite a habit, and it also becomes quite addictive because it really is a quick win. How do you cut out those glue words without losing the meaning? It's quite easy to do. Just comes back to the fact that when we write, we tend to not think too much about what we're writing. We put down on the paper exactly the words that we would say, and that includes lots of glue words. We want to cut those out, get to the, I think our CEO calls it, get to the kind of meat and veg, get to the words that mean the action. Okay, so far we've done readability, we've done style, we've done sticky sentences. I think this is probably a good point to jump off and show you a bit more about some of the other features of Prowritingaid, because I think these are particularly useful to business users. The first one I wanted to show you was, or rather is, our style guide, which I'm just going to pull from here. Okay. So the style guide feature in Prowritingaid allows you to build custom style rules. So you may have a style guide at the organization or team you're working in, and that will define the tone of voice and the writing style you use in some of the subjective areas of writing. And it's really important. It's important for consistency. We know that any big organization or any organization that has a focus on its brand will have a clearly defined writing style. Now, in the past, you'd have had a writing style guide that was hidden away in a drawer on an intranet site. What we have done at Prowritingaid is allow you to automate that style guide. So you can create those rules within the tool and they will flag as you're writing. Let me give you an example. So you can see I've got a whole bunch of personal style guide rules here. I can also create team style guide rules that will apply to everybody in the Prowritingaid team. So you can create style guide rules on 2 levels. And it may look a bit confusing, but let me just work my way down. We'll pick out one that's easy to explain. Okay, so creating a style guide rule is as simple as using these 4 fields in the interface. I create a wrong sentence. In fact, let me give you some context here. So this is University of Pennsylvania. And they were frustrated that actually what was being written in the documents from many of the teams there was the term Pennsylvania University, but that's not their name. The name is University of Pennsylvania. Well, we can fix this in a really simple style guide rule. We do that by creating a wrong sentence, just an example of any wrong sentence that contains the incorrect term. So here, she graduated from Pennsylvania University. We tell the computer what the match is, so what it's looking for, and that's simply Pennsylvania University. We then specify the replacement. So we want to replace Pennsylvania University with University of Pennsylvania, which you can see here. And then we can add a message. So a simple message to tell the user why that term or that word or that sentence, whatever it is being flagged. We can test the rule. Okay, the rule tests okay. Save the rule. In fact, before we do that, let's copy that because we'll dive back into our sample document and have a look. So I'm just going to create some space up here. Let me go back in to run the real-time checker. Add the sentence. Takes a minute. And there we go. Underline in yellow, that's a style issue. And the message appears with the message that I wrote. So never use Pennsylvania University. Our brand name is University of Pennsylvania, and the correct version, which I can click with a change. Now, compare that to, having to find a physical copy of the style guide, compare the documents side by side, make the changes by hand. It's such a time saver. It's also, again, one of our quite addictive features. Once you get into the, so let me just bring up that window again. Once you get into the detail and the linguistics of style guide rules, it can become quite addictive. It can also become quite complex. There are ways that we can create really complex rules here using POS tags, so parts of speech tags, and using regular expression. I think Micah's got a couple of blog posts she's going to share that explain how to create basic and advanced style guide rules. So take a look at those after today's session. We're always here to help. So then get in touch if you want help with automating your style guide. I'm always happy to look at some specific rules you may have and how we can build those into style guide rules. And we'll be posting those into the chat at the end of our Q&A. So we have an article on simple style guide rules, and then we have an article on advanced style guide rules. So both of those can be very helpful if you're looking to automate, say, your company style guide, or looking to have some rules that maybe catch you up on some personal trip-up points. Yeah, absolutely. So the next one is Snippets. Snippets is a really new tool that we released earlier this year at Prowritingaid. It's our text expander tool. So great if you are working in customer service or in any kind of role where you are using expressions, maybe phrases, maybe sentences, maybe entire paragraphs where you're repeatedly using the same terms. So it's really simple to use. I can create snippets. I can create folders for various types of snippets. Again, I can create snippets that are personal to me, but I can also create snippets that apply to all of my team, grouped under a team license. Here, so I've got an example of a snippet that I've created here. It's my welcome new user snippet. So where I have a corporate customer who's running a trial and we're providing a bunch of trial licenses for them to get to know the tool, we'll sign them up and they'll automatically receive this message from a snippet that I've created. And you can see it's just a really simple email, but it's the same every time. So rather than having to type it out, it makes sense to use a text expander tool. You can see the body of the message here. I can format that. I've got a label and I've also created a shortcut. I can save that. I can go back into my document. Let me just move this down a bit. And as I start to type, you'll see it's searching for the relevant snippet based on the shortcut, and I can click on it and drop the text in. Again, such a time-saving tool. So if you are working as part of a team or part of an organization where that would benefit, I really recommend trying it out. And you can do that just by signing up as a user. Okay, I think the final one I wanted to get to was our term-based tool. Term bases are used by lots of our corporate customers because they're a great way of uploading technical terms, acronyms, or specific preferred terms that are relevant to your organization. So we have organizations that load kind of, I think our record so far is 150,000 terms in a term base. It's a really simple process to do. It works a little bit like a team dictionary, right? So if you've got terminology that you use within your organization that might be flagged as a spelling mistake or a typing mistake, or you've got acronyms that you want to have flagged so that they show the full version of the acronym, or maybe you've got deprecated terms. Maybe you've got product names that are now outdated and have been given new names. You can enter those within the term-based tool. It's really straightforward. You just go to the term-based. So if you see, once you're signed into Prowritingaid, all the things I've shown you, things like style guides, snippets, and term bases are here in your left-hand menu. So you go to term base, download the template, which is here. Let me just show you what the template looks like. I'm just going to drag this across the screen. So it's just a simple CSV file, and it allows you to, sorry, I'm having mouse trouble. It allows you to enter the term, the preferred term that you want to be recognized, the deprecated term, if there was a deprecated term. So in here, we've got the example of crosshead screwdriver. The deprecated term is Phillips head screwdriver or Phillips screwdriver. You can add a definition if you want to. You can even add a URL so that within the tool where the computer finds the term Phillips head screwdriver or Phillips screwdriver, it will flag it and give the up-to-date, the preferred equivalent. And it won't flag crosshead screwdriver as a typing mistake or an error. So again, if you've got complex or any kind of term bases within the organization, it's a really simple way of adding a time-saving tool to your version Prowritingaid. And that's it. It's as simple as that. There are three key functions there, key features, sorry, that really allow you to customize Prowritingaid based on your specific organizational needs.
And the great thing about the term base is it is super simple because it does just take a CSV file, I believe, Tom, right?
Exactly that. CSV file is all you need. That's it.
Okay. So if you have, say, maybe a document that your group adheres to, maybe it's a style guide from another organization or something like that, you can always just download that as a CSV from that group and then upload it to Prowritingaid. So. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that's it. There's a couple of other things really for any of you who are parts of a team. You will see again in this left-hand tool menu bar that you have a Teams dashboard also a team activity dashboard. So those allow you to manage licenses of a team. They also allow you to see how your team are using Prowritingaid. So how frequently they're signing in, how many suggestions they're accepting. So you can start to build a picture of maybe where they need more support, okay, more training support or more help to engage in using the tool. But between all those tools, that's how you get the most out of Prowritingaid. So I really recommend, if you've signed up as a user, if you've signed up for a free trial, definitely take your time to explore some of those reports and start to get a feel for where the real value lies for you.
And if you haven't already signed up, or if you are a team head that would like to discuss potentially getting Prowritingaid for your team, we'll be posting links to both our business page for you to schedule a demo if you're the head of a team, or our sign up page if you have not already signed up for a trial.
Fantastic. So how are we getting on, Mike? Have we got any
Yeah, I think we've got plenty of time for our Q&A, so we will go ahead and jump into that now. So one of the first ones I got was talking a little bit about what our security protocols are.
Yeah, great question. You know, it's on the front of everyone's mind. And again, it's one of the areas that really sets us apart from other spelling and grammar checkers out there. So as far as we're concerned, Prowritingaid security is an absolute priority, and privacy too. When we're analyzing your text, so we send your text for analysis within our servers, which are hosted by Microsoft Azure. There is no data persistence. There's no data storage. So when we analyze your text, it's done and your text is deleted. We don't keep any versions of it. We don't hold on to it. As I said, there's no data persistence, but we also don't have any rights to use it. So we don't claim rights to use your data for feeding our algorithms, anything like that. It remains your data at every time. Obviously, any transmission of data is fully encrypted. We use TLS 1.2. And that it's as simple as that. You know, most corporate customers that we work with, it's at the top of their agenda, and it is for us too.
And we are also HIPAA and GDPR compliant for any users that might be of concern to.
Absolutely.
All right, one of our other users has asked a little bit about something that I think we have a request in with the dev team, and it's about writing emails and getting sentence fragments for things like Dear Bill, or, you know, typing your name at the end. And I believe we are talking to the dev team about that, correct?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I can see the question actually. Yeah, thanks for that. At the moment, we've realized that it's something that's flagging more than it should. So our dev team are looking at it. I'm with you. I wouldn't deactivate the rule right now. It will be fixed. So we have a dev team and an NLP team constantly working on improving the tool. Language is a huge subject, and you know, these things, these challenges are. We always have a bunch that we're working on. This is one of the high priority ones right now.
Mm-hmm. I think another one that we've got is finding details on all the integrations that we have available.
Okay, so yeah, you can do that anywhere. Let me just share my screen actually. Anywhere on the homepage, you'll see that we list our integrations on the homepage, and you can click through to any of them from here, or you can simply navigate to the bottom of the page where we list them all here. So you'll see, you know, Google Docs add-on, Microsoft Office add-in, Chrome extension, so on and so forth. I've just realized I'm not sharing my screen, so I've just talked about that, and probably no one's seen what I was talking about. Let me show you once again, because they're listed here. And then at the bottom of the screen, we've got integrations with each one listed individually, and you can just click through to each integration.
We had a little bit of a question about working with our API, just kind of the process behind, you know, how you get connected with the API, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, so API information, again, you can find that here. So we've got two APIs. We've got a fully configurable API, which customers take or use to implement and integrate Prowritingaid within their own platforms. So you can use it to run the same reports, provide the same features, and you can find the information here under Grammar Checker API. We've also got what we call a Grammar Checker component, which is kind of like an API Lite that does just the real-time checking element within text editors. So we have a plugin that works with things like TinyMCE, Frowala, CK Editor, a whole bunch of them. In fact, you can see, I think, them listed here. And it's a great way of integrating just real-time checking in your platform or in your tool. So 2 options there. You can find out information about each on that menu at the bottom of the homepage.
I think we've got one more at the moment that is discussing, where we get the information for our corrections from.
Yeah, great question. So like I said, right, we don't use your data. We don't have any rights to use your data, unlike other grammar and spell checkers out there. We don't think that's necessary. We actually build our deep learning models and train them using data that we acquire, huge amounts of data that we acquire from professional editors. So your data isn't used at any point, and you don't lose the ownership of your data at any point.
So you don't have to worry that your data is being dumped into an algorithm somewhere. We promise the only place that we're getting this correction data from is from professional editors who have already talked to us about sharing their data in these cases. All right, so I think we have another. Let's see. Scrivener just released version 3 for Windows. What's the status of our integration for Prowritingaid on that front?
God, that's a really good question. So I'm going to have to defer to one of our team for that because I'm not a Scrivener expert, okay? So I will check that out and we've got a note of your email address. We'll come back to you tomorrow on that if that's okay. We do integrate, we've integrated with Scrivener for a long time, so I would imagine there are no issues there. I think it would be good to go, but I'll just check that for you.
And I can imagine, since I think version 3 has been out for the Mac for a while, so I would think that we would be pretty ready to be compatible with Windows as well. Okay. Yeah. Do we have any other questions? Okay. In that case, guys, thanks for being such an awesome audience. It was great to have all of you. We hope this was helpful. We'll also, of course, as always, be sending out a replay in case you had to jump out early, or if you just wanted to go back and take a look at anything that we discussed during the walkthrough, that replay will be out to you shortly. All right, guys, so thank you all very much.
Thanks, everyone.